Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 6 of our reading of William Goldman's The Princess Bride, a hot fairy tale. Now we are going to go over the copyright information, which should be on your screen right now. Let's see, The Princess Bride. Copyright 1973 by William Goldman, all rights reserved, published in the United States by Ballantine Books, a division of Random House Incorporated, New York, and simultaneously in Canada by Ballantine Books of Canada, Limited, Toronto, Canada. It also has the Library of Congress card number, and that the cover art was by Norman Green. So, anyways, in the last part, something weird happened. The bride fell for Wesley, but Wesley was killed by pirates apparently. So now we're to the chapter called The Groom. Apparently, the princess is now the most beautiful woman in the world, and we're going to see what transpires here. And we already went over this the editor's notes about how he altered the thing. But anyway, Prince Humperdinck was shaped like a barrel. His chest was a great barrel chest, his thighs mighty barrel thighs, and he was not tall, but he weighed close to 250 pounds. Brick hard. He walked like a crab side to side, and probably if he had wanted to be a ballet dancer, he would have been doomed to a miserable life of endless frustration because he didn't want to be a ballet dancer. He wasn't in that much of a hurry to be king either. Even war, at which he excelled, took second place to his affections. Everything took second place to his affections. Hunting was his love. He made it a practice never to let a day go by without killing something. It didn't much matter what. When he first grew dedicated, he killed only big things, elephants and pythons. But then, as his skill increased, he began to enjoy the suffering of little beasts, too. He could happily spend an afternoon tracking a flying squirrel across forests or a rainbow trout down rivers once he was determined. Once he had focused on an object, the prince was relentless. He never tired, never wavered, neither ate nor slept. It was death chess, and he was international Grand Master. In the beginning, he traversed the world for opposition, but travel consumed time, ships and horses being what they were, and the time away from Florin was worrying. There always had to be a male heir to the throne, and as long as his father was alive, there was no problem. But someday his father would die, and then the prince would be the king, and he would have to select a queen to supply an heir for the day of his own death. So to avoid the problem of absence, Prince Humperdinck built the Zoo of Death. He designed it himself with Count Rugen's help, and he sent his hirelings across the world to stock it for him. It was kept brimming with things that he could hunt, and it really wasn't like any other animal sanctuary anywhere. In the first place, there were never any visitors, only the albino keeper to make sure the beasts were properly fed and that there was never any sickness or weakness inside. The other thing about the zoo was that it was underground. The prince picked the spot himself in the quietest, remotest corner of the castle grounds, and he decreed that there were to be 5 levels, all with the proper needs for his individual enemies. On the first floor, he put enemies of speed: wild dogs, cheetahs, hummingbirds. On the second level belonged the enemies of strength: anacondas and rhinos and crocodiles of over 20 feet. And the third level was for poisoners, spitting cobras, jumping spiders, death bats galore. The fourth level was the kingdom of the most dangerous, the enemies of fear: the shrieking tarantula, the only spider capable of sound; the blood eagle, the only bird that thrived on human blood, plus in its own black pool, the sucking the sucking squid. Even the albino shivered during feeding time on the fourth level. The fifth level was empty. The prince constructed it in hopes of someday finding something worthy, something as dangerous and fierce and powerful as he was. Unlikely, still, he was an eternal optimist, so he kept the great cage of the fifth level always in readiness. And there was really more than enough that was lethal on the other four levels to keep a man happy. The prince would sometimes choose his prey by luck. He had a great wheel with a spinner, and on the outside of the wheel was a picture of every animal in the zoo. And he would twirl the spinner at breakfast, and wherever it stopped, the albino would ready that breed. Sometimes he would choose by mood. I feel quick today, fetch me a cheetah. Or I feel strong today, release a rhino. And whatever he requested, of course, was done. He was ringing down the curtain on the orangutan when the business of the king's health made its ultimate intrusion. In the mid-afternoon, it was mid-afternoon, and the prince had been grappling with the giant beast since morning. And finally, after all these hours, the hairy thing was weakening. Again and again the monkey tried to bite, a sure sign of failure of strength in the arms. The prince warded off the attempted bites with ease, and the ape was heaving at the chest now, desperate for air. The prince made a crab-like step sideways and another, then darted forward, spun the great beast into his arms, and began applying pressure to the spine. This was all taking place in the ape pit, which the prince had his pleasure. The ape pit, where the prince had his pleasure with any simians. From up above now, Count Rugen's voice interrupted. There is news, the count said. From battle, the prince replied. Can it wait? For how long? Asked the count. Crack! The orangutan fell like a rag doll. Now what is all this? The prince replied, stepping past the dead beast, mounting the ladder and out of the pit. Your father has had his annual physical, the count said. I have the report, and your father is dying. Drat, said the prince. That means I shall have to get married. Chapter 3. The Courtship. 4 of them met in the great council room of the castle. Prince Humperdinck, his confidant, Count Rugen, his father, aging King Lotheron, and Queen Bella, his evil stepmother. Queen Bella was shaped like a gumdrop and colored like a raspberry. She was easily the most beloved person in the kingdom and had been married to the king long before he began mumbling. Prince Humperdinck was but a child then, and since the only stepmothers he knew were the evil ones from stories, he always called Bella that, or ES for short. All right, the prince began when they were all assembled. Who do I marry? Let's pick a bride and get it done. Aging King Lotheron said, I've been thinking it's really getting to be about time for Humperdinck to pick a bride. He didn't actually so much as say that as mumble it. I have been mumble, Inga mumble. Queen Bella was the only one who bothered ferreting out his meaning. Ferreting out his. Ferreting out. Okay. Oh, right here. Queen Bella was the only one who bothered ferreting out his meanings anymore. You couldn't be righter, dear, she said, as she patted his royal robes. What did he say? He said, whoever you decide on would be getting a thunderously handsome prince for a lifetime companion. Tell him he's looking quite well himself, the prince returned. We've only just changed miracle men, the queen said. Their accounts for the improvements. Their accounts for the improvements. You mean you fired Miracle Max? Prince Humperdinck said. I thought he was the only one left. Okay, here we go. No, we found another one up in the mountains, and he's quite extraordinary. Old, of course, and then who wants a young miracle man? Tell him I've changed. Tell him I've changed miracle man. King Lothron said. It came out. Tell mumble, mirimble, mumble. What did he say? The prince wondered. He says a man of your importance couldn't marry just any princess. True, true, Prince Humperdinck said. He sighed deeply. I suppose that means Norina. That would certainly be a perfect match politically, Count Rugen allowed. Princess Norina was from Gilder, the country that lay just across the Florin Channel. In Gilder, they put it differently. For them, Florin was the country on the other side of the Channel of Gilder. In any case, the two countries had stayed alive over the centuries mainly by warring on each other. There had been the olive war, the tuna fish discrepancy, which almost bankrupted both nations, the Roman Rift, which did send them both into insolvency, only to be followed by the discord of the emeralds, in which they both got rich again, chiefly by banding together for a brief period and robbing everyone within sailing distance. I wonder if she hunts, though, said Humperdinck. I don't care so much about personality, just so they're good with a knife. I saw her several years ago, Queen Bella said. She seemed lovely, though hardly muscular. I would describe her more as a knitter than a doer. But again, lovely. Skin? Asked the prince. Marble-ish, said the queen. Lips? Number or color? Said the queen. Color, yes. Rosish cheeks for the same. Eyes largish, one blue, one green. Said Humperdinck. And form? Hourglassish, always clothed divinishly, and of course famous throughout Gilder for the largest hat collection in the world. Ooh, hats. Well, let's bring her over here for some state occasions and have a look at her, said the prince. Isn't there a princess in Gilder that would be about the right age? Said the king. It came out says Gilbul, a bumble mumble. Are you never wrong? said Queen Bella, and she smiled into the weakening eyes of her ruler. What did he say? Wondered the prince. That I should leave this very day with an invitation, replied the queen. So began the great visit to Prince Norina. Let's see. 13 minutes, okay. Me again. Of course, the cuts in this version I feel most justified in making this one, just as the chapter on whaling in Moby Dick can be omitted by all but the most punishment-loving readers, so the packing scene that Morgenstein details here are really best left alone. That's what happens for the next 56 and a half pages of The Princess Bride. Packing. I include unpacking scenes in the same category. What happens is just this. Queen Bella packs most of her wardrobe, 11 pages, and travels to Gilder, 2 pages. In Gilder, she unpacks 5 pages, then tenders the invitation to Princess Norina, 1 page. Prince Norina accepts 1 page, then Prince Norina packs all her clothes and hats, 23 pages rather, and together the princess and the queen travel back to Florin for the annual celebration of the founding of Florin City, 1 page. They reach King Lothron's castle, where Princess Norina is shown her quarters, 1/2 page, and unpacks all the same clothing and hats we've just seen her pack, 1.5 pages before. 12 pages. In a baffling passage, I spoke to Professor Bongiorno of Columbia University. He heads their Florinese department, and he said that this was the most deliciously satiric chapter of the entire book. Morgenstein Morgenstein's point apparently being being simply to show that although Florin considers itself vastly more civilized than Gilder, Gilder was in fact the far more sophisticated country, as indicated by the superiority in number and quality of the ladies' clothes. I'm not about to argue with a full professor, but if you ever have a really unbreakable case of insomnia, do yourself a favor and start reading chapter 3 of the uncut version. Anyways, things pick up a bit once the prince and princess meet and spend the day. Narina did have as advertised marblish skin, rosish lips and cheeks, largish eyes, one blue, one green. Heterochromia is what we call that. Hourglassish form, and easily the most extraordinary collection of hats ever assembled. Wide-brimmed and narrow, some tall, some not, some fancy, some colorful, some plaid, some plain. She doted on changing hats on every opportunity. When she met the prince, she was wearing one hat. When he asked her for a stroll, she excused herself shortly to return wearing another, equally flattering hat. Things went on like this throughout the day, but it seemed to me to be a bit too much court etiquette for modern readers. So it's not till the evening meal that I returned to the original text. And let's go. Dinner was held in the great hall of Lotherin's castle. Ordinarily, they would all have supped in the dining room, but for an event of this importance, that place was simply too small, so tables were placed end to end along the center of the great hall, an enormous drafty spot that was given to being chilly even in the summertime. There were many doors and giant entranceways, and the wind gusts sometimes reaching gale force. This night was more typical than less. The wind whistled constantly, and the candles constantly needed relighting. And some of the more daringly dressed ladies shivered, but Prince Humperdinck didn't seem to mind, and in Florin, if you didn't, you didn't either. If he didn't, you didn't either. At 8:23, there seemed every chance of lasting alliance starting between Florin and Gilder. At 8:24, the two nations were very close to war. What happened was simply this. At 8:23, the 5 seconds, the main course of the evening was ready for serving. The main course was essence of brandied pig, and you need a lot of it to serve 500 people. So in order to hasten the serving, a giant double door that led from the kitchen to the great hall was opened. The giant double door was on the north end of the room. The door remained open throughout what followed. The proper wine for essence of brandied pig was in readiness behind the double door that led eventually to the wine cellar. This double door was open at 8:23 and 10 seconds. In order that the dozen wine stewards could get their kegs quickly to the eaters, this double door, it might be noted, was at the south end of the room. Okay, so they have a double door at the north end and a double door at the south end. So, okay, I'm kind of following this. At this point, an unusually strong crosswind was clearly evident. Prince Humperdinck didn't notice because at that moment he was whispering with the Princess Narina of Gilder. He was cheek to cheek with her, his head under her wide-brimmed blue-green hat, which brought out the exquisite color of both of her largest eyes. At 8:23 and 20 seconds, King Lotherin made his somewhat belated entrance to the dinner. He was always belated now, had been for years, and in the past people had been known to starve before he got there. But of late, meals just began without him, which was fine with him, since his new miracle man had taken him off meals anyways. The king entered through the king's door, a huge hinged thing that only he was allowed to use. It took several servants in excellent condition to work it. It should be reported that the king's door was always in the east side of the room, since the king was, of all people, closest to the sun. What happened then has been variously described as a norther or a sou'wester, depending on where you were seated in the room when it struck. But all hands agree on one thing. At 8:23 and 25 seconds, it was pretty gusty in the great hall. Most of the candles lost their flames and toppled, which was only important because a few of them fell still burning into the small kerosene cups that were placed here and there across the banquet table so that the essence of brandied pig could be properly flamed when served. Servants rushed in from all over to put out the flames, and they did a good enough job, considering that evening in the room was flying the... everything, okay. And they did a good enough job, considering that everything in the room was flying this way, that way, fans and scarves and hats. Particularly the hat of Princess Nerina. It flew off to the wall behind her, where she quickly retrieved it and put it properly on. That was at 8:23 and 50 seconds. It was too late. At 8:23:55, Prince Humperdinck rose roaring, the veins of his thick neck etched like hemp. There were still flames in some places, and their redness reddened his already blood-filled face. He looked, as he stood there, like a barrel on fire. He then said to Princess Nerina of Gilder the 5 words that brought the nation to the brink. "Madam, feel free to flee." And with that, he stormed from the great hall. The time was 8:24. Prince Humperdinck made his angry way to the balcony above the great hall and stared down at the chaos. The fire was still in places flaming red. Guests were pouring out through the doors, and Princess Nerina, hatted and faint, was being carried by her servants far from view. Queen Bella finally caught up with the prince, who stormed along the balcony, clearly not yet in control. I do wish you hadn't quite been so blunt," Queen Bella said. The prince whirled on her. "I'm not marrying any bald princess, and that's that." No one would know," Queen Bella explained. "She has hats, even for sleeping." I would know," cried the prince. "Did you see the candlelight reflecting off her skull?" "But things would have been so good with Gilder," the queen said, addressing herself half to the prince, half to Count Rugen, who now joined them. "Forget about Gilder. I'll conquer it sometime. I've been wanting to ever since I was a kid anyways." He approached the queen. "People snicker behind your back when you've got a bald wife, and I can't do without that. Thank you. You'll just have to find someone else." "Who?" "Find me somebody. She should just look nice, that's all." That Nerina has no hair," King Lothran said, puffing up to the others. "Nor humble. Thank you for pointing that out, my dear," said Queen Bella. "I don't think Humperdinck will like that," said the king. Dumble, humble, mumble. Then Count Rugen stepped forward. "You want someone who looks nice, but what if she is a commoner?" The commoner the better," Prince Humperdinck replied, pacing again. "What if she can't hunt?" the count went on. "I don't care if she can't spell," the prince said. Suddenly, he stopped and faced them all. "I'll tell you what I want," he began then. "I want someone who is so beautiful that when you see her, You say, wow, that Humperdinck must be some kind of fellow to have a wife like that. Search the country, search the world to find her. Just find her. Count Rugen could only smile. She is already found, he said. It was dawn when the two horsemen reined in at the hilltop. Count Rugen rode a splendid black horse, large, perfect, powerful. The prince rode one of his whites. It made Rugen's mount seem like a plow puller. She delivers milk in the mornings, Count Rugen said, and she is truly without question not possibly of error beautiful. She was something of a mess when I saw her, the count admitted, but the potential was overwhelming. A milkmaid? The prince ran the words across his rough tongue. I don't know that I would wed one of them, even under the best conditions. People might snicker that she was the best I could do. True, the count admitted. If you prefer, we could ride back to Florin City without waiting. We've come this far, the prince said. We might as well wait. His voice simply died. I'll take her, he managed finally as Buttercup rode slowly by below them. No one will snicker, I think, the count said. I must court her now, said the prince. Leave us alone for a minute. He rode the white expertly down the hill. Buttercup had never seen such a giant beast, or such a rider. I am your prince, and you will marry me, Humperdinck said. Buttercup whispered. I am your servant, and I refuse. I am your prince, and you cannot refuse. I am your loyal servant, and I just did. Refusal means death. Kill me then. I am your prince, and I'm not that bad. How could you rather be dead than married to me? Because, Buttercup said, marriage involves love, and that is not a pastime at which I excel. I tried once, and it went badly, and I am sworn never to love another. Love? said Prince Humperdinck. Who mentioned love? Not me. I can tell you. Look, there must always be a male heir to the throne of Florin. That's me. Once my father dies, there won't be an heir, just a king. That's me again. When that happens, I'll marry and have children. Until there is a son. So you can either marry me and be the richest and most powerful woman in 1,000 miles and give turkeys away at Christmas and provide me a son, or you can die in terrible pain in the very near future. Make up your mind. I will never love you. I wouldn't want it if I had it. I wouldn't want it if I had it. Then by all means, let us marry. Okay, and we are done here. We made it to chapter 4, the preparations. Okay, well, that kind of escalated quickly. Anyways, we've been reading William Goldman's The Princess Bride. If you like this content, then make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, or if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.